art hangout series. It's kind of a new series that I'm working on where I can just do some videos where it's not super specific, where I can do a mishmash of different things, and I think it gives me a lot of freedom. And it's a great way to just make content without having to think too much. And in a way, I just want to hang out basically, and because doing like a specific series for something specific, it can get monotonous and tiring and boring. So yeah, so this is more of like a conversation, like an art chat slash or kind of a podcast, but I can kind of go through different things, discuss different topics, maybe demonstrate, do a quick demo, whatever. Yeah, and I think this freedom gives me a lot of, or it reduces my chances of procrastinating. I saw this comment from a commenter on YouTube from my last video, and he wanted my take, or he or she wanted my take on procrastination. And it's something that I've been struggling with pretty much forever, and I feel like it's a chip on my shoulder. Like it's something that I'm not really proud of, but because a lot of my progress or lack thereof has been a result of pretty much me procrastinating a lot. I've done this in middle school, high school, college, and even now after all of that. It's just kind of annoying, but I think I've been getting better, and I definitely do have some kind of results because of my own improvement. So like, what's my take on procrastination? As much as it's bad, or as much as it has negatively impacted my life, in a way, because of that struggle, I was able to find a way to change my approach to procrastination. And this starts, I think, with a perspective, a mindset, or a mind shift in a sense. I think it's good to face the fact that procrastinating, putting things off, is something that you can't totally eliminate. It's going to be there and show up in one way or another, but I think instead of trying to quote unquote stop procrastination, I think a much more useful way to approach it is to think about things in terms of chances or likelihood or probability. Because instead of just going for an either or approach where it's either I procrastinate or I don't, because that's not natural. I mean, it's kind of idealistic, but in the real world, that's never going to happen. Just being able to totally, like a machine, just stop, being inefficient, wasting time. This is something that's going to be a part of the human experience forever, basically. But it doesn't have to be that bad. It can be used to you have to learn how to manage and mitigate procrastination. So instead of trying to stop it, you want to try and increase the chances of you not doing it, or decrease the chances of am I saying it right? You basically want to increase your chances of being more productive and decrease your chances of procrastinating. So what you want to do is stack up a bunch of strategies, techniques, mental models, that over time, as you stack more of these together, the likelihood of you procrastinating is going to lessen, and eventually you're going to get close to your goals. You're actually going to get some kind of sorry. You're actually going to get some kind of results from this approach. So this kind of mind shift from the either or, totally eliminating stopping procrastination, from that to moving to what can I do to lessen the chances of me wasting time, putting things off, not working on my goals, and what can I do to increase my chances of being more efficient, being more productive, and yeah, I think that's helpful. And it does lessen the pressure because you can't just say, from this day on, I will never waste time ever again. That's BS, right? So instead of going for that absolutism, is that a word? Or that super either or black and white approach, think of things in terms of plus minus. What can I do to increase my chances of doing well and being productive? And what can I do to decrease my chances of wasting time, putting things off, procrastinating? So I think because of that mind shift, I was able to actually do a lot, and essentially I don't feel bad anymore from procrastinating. I mean, yeah, it can get in the way, but it's not as bad because you can beat yourself up mentally, emotionally, if you're always like, if you have this super strict ideal of how your day should be, how your week should go, what goals should be achieved by this year, like that kind of mentality. I think it's nice to have it's nice to be ambitious, but it hurts. It hurts if you can't achieve it, and chances are most of the time you will fail if you have this super harsh approach. So the first thing, or my first take on procrastination would be to change your mindset and not be too strict with yourself, to think things in terms of probability. How can I increase my likelihood, my chances of, or the probability of me being more productive, and what can I do to decrease my chances of being unproductive, right? So I think with that step, I think you're going to get ahead. And a lot of the techniques can follow from that. So I think that's the first major thing, that shift in mindset from stopping totally procrastination to productivity, and the idea of increasing or decreasing your probability of either being more productive and less procrastinating. Right? Now, I won't be able to give you all of the techniques that I have in this one session because I'm kind of speaking off the cuff here, if you can't tell. But aside from that mind shift, what can I share? I've discussed a lot of, I guess, techniques or approaches, not to be, what's the word? Yeah, basically I talk a lot about this kind of self-development thing in my podcast, and I do have a lot of episodes there, so if you're interested, you can check it out. I will link it in the description below. Although it's a bit muffled, like I just share a lot of stuff there that's not always about it's about self-development, about the life of the artist kind of life, but I can share a few things, I guess. And again, I won't be able to give you a lot in this one session, maybe in the following videos. I think having a routine really does help because, or exchange the word routine for habit. It's basically this thing where you just do it and you don't really have to think about it. It's basically just a part of your it's almost like a part of your body at that point. Think of like brushing your teeth, taking a shower, whatever your habits are that you seem to just do without having to think about it. What you want to do is reduce the idea of having to think about doing something. And I think that helps with procrastination or lessening your chances of procrastinating. I remember back in college, one of my not colleagues, but my peers, Mindy, she shared this presentation from SlideShare, I think, some kind of PowerPoint presentation on, I believe it was something, it was titled something like 50 to 50 plus something productivity tips. And one of the tips that really got to me was, or was it a LinkedIn thing, whatever it is. I remember the most memorable slide I saw was separate thinking from execution. Separate thinking from execution. And I think if you have this model with you, you are less likely to procrastinate, because I think the thing that stops you from even starting is like there's so much in your head and you're kind of matching that with actions at the same time. And I think this is where the friction comes. Like you don't have, like your mind is not in ease. Like it's uneasy. It feels cluttered and heavy. Like you can kind of sometimes feel it in the front of your head. And I think you have to find a way to reduce that mental strain. And a good way to do that is to separate your thinking from your execution. Basically, you want to think of things, decide on things beforehand, create a list of things to do, whatever your schedule is, make sure it's out there, written down. And then once that part is done, you want to kind of switch off that thinking part of your brain and just focus on doing. So learning how to separate or create different modes of working, I think can help reduce. Again, we're not trying to totally eliminate procrastination. And I think that's a big thing that's really held me back. It's having that perfectionist kind of mindset where I have to totally be this ultimate giga chad, productive, efficient fucking master artist, right? Forget that, it's a waste of time. Focus again on trying to increase your chances of being productive and decrease your chances of being unproductive or procrastinating, right? So separate thinking from execution. And if you're able to reduce that mental load in your brain, you're more likely, again, it's about likelihood, chances, probability. You're more likely, it's more probable that you're going to start and do something if you don't have that mental strain in your brain. So separate thinking from execution. Aside from that, or what it kind of goes along with the previous point, you have to find a way to write things down, because like I remember a time in my life where I would not write things down, no to-do lists. Whenever I would have an idea, I would just like keep it in my head and eventually forget it. And I would actually be okay with forgetting things. This was back in middle school and a bit of high school, and it was so weird looking back at it now, because in my life as of this recording, and like I can't imagine myself not being able to write things down. Now for me, I pretty much do almost all of my note-taking on my computer, because it's more efficient. I work digitally anyway, and pretty much all of us work in some kind of digital form. So whatever your medium is, you want to make sure that you have or you build this habit of writing things down, because declutters your mind. And I think the less cluttered your mind, the more likely you're able to think and move around. which will decrease your chances of being in this analysis paralysis where you kind of analyze things too much to the point where you're just paralyzed and you don't do anything. So yeah, you want to make sure you write things down. And the point of it is, like, it doesn't have to be super detailed. Whenever you have an idea and it's kind of important, you want to just put it down in some kind of list, and you can always check on that list later. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be work related, something personal, something for your business. It doesn't matter. You just have to be able to deload your mind. And remember, the less cluttered your mind, the more likely you are to start and move forward, and you're less likely to put things off. So what else have I done that has really, or what kind of perspective what's another take on procrastination that has really helped me move forward from it? Well, maybe not from it, because it's always there, but I just know how to handle it more. Oh yeah, even right now, as I'm doing this recording, I'm still procrastinating in some way. And I pretty much am always procrastinating in some form. So even if you're listening to me right now, don't assume that you won't ever procrastinate. And I think this will help you relax more, knowing that this is something natural, something that's human, and it can actually lead to a lot of interesting ideas, or gains or achievements. But obviously at the same time, it can suck and it can cause a lot of failures in life. Because here's the thing, a lot of my failures have come from me putting things off and not taking things seriously. Aside from other issues, procrastination has always been a big negative in my life. But understanding that it's always going to be there and focusing more on or accepting that it's part of just being human. Like, whenever we're faced with something that's hard, we tend to avoid it. There's a saying that people pick the path of least resistance, and it's almost a survival tactic. Like, why would you purposely, as a creature who wants to survive and pass on their genes, why would you purposely do something that's difficult when you can find an easier route to do something? So when you think about things this way, you will have more compassion for yourself, like knowing that you do have this natural inclination to want to do the easiest freaking thing. You should not feel shame for having that impulse, right? Now, the thing is, obviously not everything is going to be easy. If you want to achieve something in life, we have to do hard things. But maybe this is another thing that can really help you. And I think that has helped me is, even though what you're pursuing may be hard, you can always find a way to make it easy. For example, let's look at this a recent painting by Ruan Jia, one of my favorite artists. And he recently uploaded this video, Black Dragon Crown, a time-lapse video of this amazing painting. Rawr! And he has a very interesting style, very direct. I'm a fan of this kind of pure painting style, kind of like Hangouts, Anthony Jones, just pure raw painting power, and not a lot of layers. Even if they do use layers, they'll flatten it eventually. And it's more raw, and I like it raw. So let's look at this Ruan Jia painting. If you look at this painting, the way it starts off, it's very rough. I mean, let's just stop here. Does this look complicated? Does this look difficult? Chances are, if you were to do something like this, like right now, you would think, oh shit, like I'm such a sucky, basic fucking artist. Like, is this even considered art? You know, you start self-deprecating and such. But right now, in this moment, as much as Ruan Jia has this idea, I don't think he has a full, fleshed out, super detailed idea of how the painting is going to look in the end. He just has, like right now in this moment, he has an idea for the composition. Right now, all he has to do is focus on fixing and touching up the composition. What are the main compositional elements? Obviously, the things that are closer to you are going to be darker. It has more depth, I guess. Or you can add more depth by adding extra layers of value. So obviously this thing right here, the foreground is way darker. We have the midground, and obviously we have the background where it's pretty much almost like a white. It's like light gray. So this is the kind of depth he kind of wants to go for. But right now in this moment, he's not trying to detail anything. He's not trying to fix or illustrate a dragon. He's not trying to add proper lighting, colors. Right now, he's just focusing on this thing. And I think this kind of approach, where you just approach things, it's kind of blurred. I guess my internet is kind of slow, sorry. But this kind of approach where you just take it one step at a time. I know it's super cliche, but if you can just learn to switch off your head, or switch your brain off rather, when it comes to the future, and you essentially want to create this barrier, and you want to create this mini scope, or this circle of focus, and you want to think whatever is in my circle of focus, that's the only thing I'm going to worry about. Yes, you can have an idea of what you want in the future, or what you want the end result to be. It's good. It helps to guide your actions, but you want to eventually limit things to a manageable circle of focus. And once you have that settled, then you can expand or move on to a different circle of focus. And I think this kind of approach where you limit your scope of what you want to work on, I think this can help reduce the stress of having to complete, let's say, this painting by Ruan Jia. Like, this entire painting looks amazing in the end. Like, it feels so detailed. I mean, it is detailed. But when you see it all in the end, it feels like it's so much. Like, you feel like, fuck, like, can I even do this kind of painting? But if you break things down, minute by minute, what Ruan Jia is doing isn't even that complicated. If you break it down piece by piece, all he's doing is painting over something that he painted before. It's just a bunch of paint overs and paint overs. If you look at his layering system here in the right hand side, eventually you'll see him eventually flatten things out. So whenever he's trying to add something new, he'll make a new layer and then edit something there. Maybe change the shape, the design, change some colors, and then he'll flatten it. So you see how it's kind of like a layer by layer thing. So I guess we can kind of apply this in our own lives as well. Let's approach things layer by layer. You know, we don't have to do everything all at once. Like, he did not paint this entire thing like with just one brush stroke. But if you add all of those small layers together, all those individual layers together, eventually you're going to reach a painting that's in this level. Let's find the end result here. Look at that. Amazing dragon, nice anatomy. The lighting, realistic, looks extremely epic. It's a mix of fantasy and sci-fi. Very interesting. I love the blend. Strong contrast with the dragon, the mouth and the back. Lots of texture. It really has that gritty, traditional-esque, or kind of like a oil look. Now when you see things from this instant, it seems like a lot, but if you go back, if you go to things, or if you go back layer by layer, it's not that complicated. It only looks complicated because you're seeing all of those paint overs in one minute, or in one moment. And we kind of experience this thing where we're online, we're constantly exposed to the most successful people, but if you break things down, like, you're only really seeing the highlights of their lives. Like, you don't actually see what's happening behind the scenes. Yes, there can even be like negative, backstories and such, but just when it comes to the workload, like, you can't actually see all of the steps they had to take to get to where they are, because even if you try to show that, it's going to be boring and not as pleasing. People like to see the end results. And I think if we want to stop, quote unquote stop, or reduce our procrastination impulses, I think we have to be comfortable with working on things layer by layer and being okay with that, and learning how to stick through that process of working, and understanding that as much as you work on things layer by layer, keeping it manageable, focusing on just one thing at a time, you have to realize that things do take time to bear fruit. And it's going to take maybe a few hours for you to accomplish a painting, an epic painting, and it's going to take you a few, maybe years to accomplish or reach your goals, career goals, family goals, life goals. And it's kind of hard to accept that, knowing that things will take time and it can be kind of boring. Hopefully not that boring, but it can be somewhat monotonous sometimes, and it won't feel so epic. Like, the epicness only comes really in the end, and you can only really see it once it's done. But day by day, all you're really working on is what you can work on. So instead of trying to do what you should do, what you ought to do, or having this like idealistic mindset, focus on what you can do. You can always make a new layer in your painting, drawing software. You can always add one more brushstroke. If you make a mistake, you can always add one more brushstroke to cover up that mistake. You can always do something, so focus on what you can do. And anyone can do those things. So these are my takes on procrastination. Again, you want to make sure that instead of trying to totally stop it, you can't. Understand that you can't. Just try to learn how to manage it, mitigate it, and try to increase our chances of being more productive and decrease our chances of having to procrastinate. You won't be perfect. Don't go for the whole black and white thing, either or. You will get better as you go. And even if I'm still procrastinating right now, I know I am I'm way more adjusted with this natural human evolutionary, perhaps I'm more accustomed to this aspect of life. And the more you're accustomed to it, the more you can, or the more you are aware of it, the more you can manage it, the better your outcomes will be. So don't try to deny procrastination. Accept it as something that you will naturally do and find way to increase your chances of not doing it and find ways to decrease your chances of not doing it. What? Brain fart. Anyway, hopefully this helps you in some way. Again, there's way more strategies out there, but that's kind of my take on procrastination. I can always expand on this topic and share some more stuff, but yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Hopefully it helps. Bye.